Record. Got it. Recording. So the transaction log criteria, the performance issue will be there for transaction log data elements. Like the transaction log should also pull. You have seen right in our integration, our transaction log is pulling the events, worker events, and we have also seen in our reports, worker events is always data uh, consuming, right? Let's see the output file. Show you what I'm talking about. No, this one does not have worker events. Uh, share entire screen. Test output.xml. Okay, not this. So in our integration services, if we have enabled this transaction log data elements, not this transaction log service, but you also have the transaction log data section fields, right? So transaction log data section fields have, I mean, in my experience, it will take more time if you enable the transaction log fields because worker history is always slow. The object worker history has so much data in it, so it will be always slow. So that's what I mean when transaction log data sections. But for the configured transaction log, you'll be configuring the business process types, right? That will not impact your performance.
Oh, this will not. Okay. I was under the
Yeah,
impression
this will
this
not.
you had shared. Okay.
Yeah, this is fine actually. But the performance is more on the data section field. So it has to go to your worker history, get all the events, effective dates, and other things like that. So this will take some performance impact. Well, you won't observe the performance impact in this tenant because it's just 400 or 500 employees. But if you go into bigger tenants, your core connectors might take some time. Uh, I've seen scenarios where your core connectors, if there is a mass change in your employee population, right? For example, if you gave annual bonus for everyone, and then your core connectors running for a 30,000 or 40,000 employee population might take hours, an hour or 2 hours sometimes. Okay, so that said, okay, so in this services yesterday, we configured everything, but we did not configure the delivery service. So there is an alert here saying that the integration delivery service enabled for this integration system. However, there is no business process has been created. So what it is saying is, okay, is there a business process that needs to be created in order for this file to be delivered, right? So you may use the related actions menu, configure or view integration delivery to complete the configuration. So let's just follow it. Integration system, view integration delivery. Okay, whatever. Uh, Delivery. Just me go back. Let's get the security. Okay, I added my business process administrator. So probably that's the thing it is having impact with. So I go back to my integration system and then I do view integration delivery. This should ask me to create a new business process because each integration it will have a business process by itself. That's like your it looks like your regular hire business process or anything, but it is only part of this integration. So let's create it and then you'll notice. And then you can leave the business object empty. I can copy an existing definition. So if I want, I can copy an existing integration business process to this, or I can just leave it blank. Okay, and then I have file integration. I add one more step. This is step C. So your first step is your initiation already. So A is your initiation. That's your first step. Step B is your service, which is firing this integration. It's running this core connector worker, right? And then you have your service document delivery. Click OK. And then I can configure my document delivery here. It has an effective date. Okay, transport type, SFTP. I give it an SFTP address. Test.com. Okay, no directory. It's fine. I have a username as QWERTY123 WRTY123. And then I have to say what documents I'm delivering. On the top, I have documents saying whether I'm delivering from this integration process. Yes. You can also say you can derive from it different integrations. So it's like you can derive it from the deliverable documents, or you can derive it from repository documents. So usually we get it from integration process. If there are multiple documents and you have multiple integration deliveries, like for example, in Studio, we'll have multiple documents. We can generate multiple output files and all the files will have its own format. So once you generate multiple output files, you want to deliver one type of output to one vendor and a different type of output to a different vendor. If you're building one integration to serve two purposes, something like that. So you can add two deliveries and then differentiate them based upon deliverable documents, or you can create a document tag and then you can give it as document tag here. We'll see once we get to Studio on that, but for now we'll leave it from this integration process. Delivery items 3 times, and then you have your SFTP and everything. So I'm gonna just leave it like that. Done. So now this integration has a business process definition by itself, right? What this business process definition has is, let's go back. You have your A, your initiation. That's your first step that initiates. So whenever you launch an integration, it will basically initiate this business process. And then you have your service, which fires this integration. So that will run this integration, the INT 400 core connector worker. And then once the integration is complete, it will trigger the document delivery process to deliver the integration to an XFTP. So if you observe in this business process, edit definition, you also have an option to fire different integrations. You also have an option. It's like your regular business process, right? However, you do a hire BP, it's similar to that. So you have an integration where you can run a different integration as part of this process. So using this, you can create rules and say, okay, when this integration is complete, then kick off this integration, right? Something like that. If you can also add approvals, for example, if the output file has to be validated and approved before sending it to a external vendor, right? So you can add approval in between and say, wait for this person's or HR partner's approval before uh, sorry, wait for the payroll administrator's approval before sending this file to the payroll vendor, right? You can add an approval step in between and say wait for the approval. So basically, once the integration is complete, it will go for an approval step, and it will wait for the payroll administrator's approval. And then once she approves, then the file will be delivered. So I can add a group here saying HR admin. And then this step will be, it should be before my delivery, right? So let me change my delivery to T, and in the order of this will approve this thing. And now I have my initiation, I have my integration, then an approval, then delivery. Okay. So you can add multiple things in your integration business process as well. Okay. And what else? Yeah. So similar to this core connector worker, we have other core connectors as well. For example, we have core connector organizations, which sends organization data. Let's see other core connector templates. Create integration system. We'll not build anything. I'll just show you guys what other templates are there, and then we'll go to the packaged connectors. We have core connector as an organization inbound. We also have core connectors for inbound. For example, the core connector that I have done is core connector locations or core connector organization inbound. It is an inbound. So you get your organization data from your vendor or from your EBS system, for example, or TRM, right? So you get your organization data, and the CSV file that they send, you can automatically use core connector organization inbound to load it. You don't have to build your studio integration. Not sure where the file will be done. So you can use core connector organization inbound. And then there is core connector locations, which is an outbound, which sends location changes. You have your LMS inbound, core connector positions. This is an outbound as well, like core connector worker. And these are all core connectors. They're based on an object, and then they basically work as change detection. And then you have packaged connectors. So one example for packaged connector is ADP Payforce. That's ADP Payforce. Or you can do Cobra. Let's do Cobra. We'll do Payforce again. We'll have PICOF anyways. Let's do Cobra. So the one that we are using is Airflex. Okay. And a 401. So similar to your core connector, this integration also has your services, but most of the services are automatically enabled. You only have option to enable a debug service and the personal data section if you want the personal data section in your output. Otherwise, remaining everything, life change event, Cobra field overrides. Excuse me, guys. Sorry. Cobra field overrides, Those are all automatically enabled because I mean Payflex template or Payflex vendor is expecting certain values or certain field format. So Workday enabled everything, so you meet the field format or the structure that the Payflex Cobra is expecting.
So when Workday delivers these core connectors and package connectors, do they provide any documentation of what it is capable of? Put it on.
It's available in community,
Hmm.
um, but, but it's not in detail. I mean, I've seen with most of the package connectors, right? They'll say that you can use this package connector to get this data, but you have to figure it out based upon the template that you're using. So once you have it, identify a template, what I would do is reverse engineer it, basically run this integration and see what data elements are coming out, and then configure it you using, I mean, most of the attributes, right? So if I have this, I click OK, and then my attributes and everything, they explain me what value it is expecting. So for example, if I go down here, let's configure some attributes. Configure integration attributes. So these attributes, for example, it's saying the benefit plan. Select the appropriate benefit plans that should have enrollment data and enrollment eligibility data transmitted to the benefit provider. So this gives me clear description of what plans. So I have to select all the plans that are Cobra eligible and just include them here, right? So what mostly medical plans. Let's do healthcare coverage, dental plans. And then if we have test mode, on those. So specify tenanted values. For citizenship status, it's saying specify tenanted values to identify a worker as a citizen of the country. So this depends on how many countries your employees are. So you can give this field all the different citizenship statuses that you are expecting in your output file. Send an empty file. Creates empty file when there is no data in the enrollment file. So you can enable this option to send an empty file if your vendor is requesting an empty file if there is no enrollment data available to send, right? Discard enrollment file. Enable this attribute to discard enrollment.xml file from the audit. This file will avoid integration failure when enrollment file size exceeds to 50 MB limitation. The attribute has no effect when the integration runs in debug mode. So what this is saying is it will basically discard the enrollment.xml file, which might be being a big size. So it will not include the enrollment.xml, which if it exceeds more than 250, it usually fails. But if you check this box, it will not create that file in the first place, so it will not error out. Use SSN as per dependent member ID. So if you need member dependents ID like child ID and spouse ID, right? So there you can use their SSN. And you have to use. I mean, these are all configurable things on the Cobra integration. So once you configure them, I would say it will take one or two file versions. You have to go back and forth with your vendor, and then finalize what's missing and what you can do. That's the thing. The community is not that much helpful for customers when configuring package connectors, and I don't really like it. But for implementation partners, though, right, they have more material than what regular customers have, and I really don't like working for that manner because I mean this is what customers needs to easily understand and configure them, but it is very limited for customers knowledge. So customers has to identify this from here, but implementation partners, they have each field and what it does and what it really creates an impact for or not in community. I mean, community is also different for customers and implementation partners. Right now, mine is a customer account. So I don't see what there is so much locked content in there, which is only available for implementers, which is not available for customers. And descriptions on package connectors is also locked for customers. Not sure why they did that. Employer ID, give it an employer ID because the connector needs it. Include spouse records, send the spouse recording along with the benefit record. Personal data sections, address prioritization. Select the order the integration should look for addresses to send. Example, work and then home. Will send a work address if exists, otherwise home address will be sent. Note this should only be used if your provider can only access one address per participant. So if your provider is accepting multiple addresses, you don't need to check this box because the integration will automatically send multiple addresses. But if your provider is only accepting one address, then you should enable this box so it will take priority of work or home and then work and everything, or work and then home. Or you can just give only one value, so it would always take your work address or home address. It will not do any other addresses. The document retention policy, you guys already know, set to 30. You can override it and change it to maybe 180 or 90 in this case. That's the maximum. Similar to your core connector, you also have your integration maps. You can configure your integration maps. You have your coverage level code, so you can map your dependents to maybe so you see these external values, right? They're automatically already available for you to map. So these are based upon your vendor, and in this case it's Payflex. So because it is Payflex will only accept A, B, C, D until F for all your coverage level types. For the employee plus dependent one, maybe Payflex wants to send it as B. You can send it as B. But employee plus family, it wants you to send it as E. So you can do that. But in a core connector, you will not see all of this. But as this is a package connector especially for Payflex, you already seeing the generated values. So they already have what they're expecting. What are the different type of values they're expecting? So you have only option to pick from this. Plan type, you can do a plan type. Childcare. And then this is a text external value in this case. And you have to get a mapping from Payflex to identify, okay, what do I send? So for example, for plan type childcare Spain, for that, let's go medical. Yeah, for medical, you send med or something, right? So this is a translation value. But in this case, this is a text value instead of drop-down list. I'm not gonna go into each one. And then you have a couple of alerts here. Sequence generator is enabled, so you can configure a sequence generator for this, so it will send file name based upon the sequence. There is an integration delivery service enabled for this integration, so you can create a delivery service as well. And also, this Payflex integration also has some field override section where you can add some field overrides if you need, and those are also defined by Payforce. Defined by Payflex. So your member number, you can member number field override, and these field overrides, these are based upon worker object, so you can get anything from worker object. social security number. You can get anything from worker objects here, but if you have something that is on benefits or a different object, you probably have to get it to worker object before sending it to this integration, right? Or if you want to put it in this integration. This is a typical example of a cloud package. There are like hundreds of cloud packages which we can use. So if you're working with a vendor, the first thing you'll probably look is for whether this vendor already has a cloud package with Workday. So if it has, it makes your job easy sometimes, tough sometimes, because some cloud packages are hard to understand. Some are very easy. You just configure a couple of items and then you run it and then you see an output. And basically you go it from there. And then one other important package is PICOF. 2402 PICOF. PICOF is payroll interface. There is also payroll effective change interface. This is called PC. This is payroll interface is called PICOF. PICOF is payroll interface common output file. So we call it PICOF, PICOF. So what is this is basically it will, if you are using any external vendor for payroll like ADP or Safeguard or Paychecks or any external vendor for payroll, they all require an input a file from your core HCM system containing employee changes, statuses, compensation, one-time payments, and all of the details, right? So Workday came up with something called payroll interface. This is the common output file for all payroll vendors. So this will always detect changes, and it will only include fields. You can also include fields always, but you can only include fields when something is just changing. For example, some payroll vendors require address data only when address is changing. They don't require address data if their benefits changed, right? So they only require data when that particular element is changing. They don't require data always. You can do that with payroll interface. And payroll interface is based upon your pay period. So it can look for your current pay period and look, okay, what's my change happening effective in this pay period that I have to send to a payroll vendor. And you can integrate this payroll interface directly within the pay group. So whenever you run this integration, it automatically updates your pay group and says, okay, this is the last time I sent an extract to a payroll vendor for this pay group. And I'll also show you how to do that. But excuse me, guys. Like all other core connectors or package connectors, it also has its services. So payroll interface is enabled, launch parameters are enabled, PI members launch parameters. There are like so many sections here you can enable. Let's do full extract, yeah, personal data, status data, position data, compensation data, allowance plan data, commission, unit service, salary and hourly plan data section, on-rate job history sections, leave of absence, a file name, data service audit, diagnostic audit. And then you can add your field overrides if needed in your custom integration services. I mean, every client uses this PICOF. I mean, if they're not using a Workday payroll, if they're using any external payroll other than Workday, they use this payroll interface. It's like a merged integration that they'll have. Let's configure its attributes. Let's see how its attributes look like. Configure integration attributes. Output format is XML. No, I don't think it has a CSV option. Oh, it has a CSV option. Okay, just click it. Version, you need to give it a version like any core connector, maybe 25. Date format is this. Date and type format is this. Required field validation. Additional validation rules are applied to employee data to identify errors that may occur. For example, fields that are mapped using integration maps may contain a value that is not defined in the map. This attribute controls what happens when these validation rules detect an issue. If abort is selected, then the payroll extract will not be delivered. If omit report warning is selected, then an employee in question will be excluded from the extract with warning messages added to the event. Include is selected, the employee will be included in the payroll extract. The issue will be reported in Workday as a warning on integration event. So let's override this. So required validation is Workday gave us three options. It's saying you can omit a person, saying warnings will be reported and the pay will not be included in the payroll extract, but the payroll extract will still be delivered. So if an employee has an error saying, for example, we have a mapping for for one-time payment plan, right? We have a mapping for one-time payment plan, and then this employee has a one-time payment that is not included in the mapping. So what this payroll character will do is it will not go for the default value. In regard, it will give us a warning saying this employee has a warning or a missing mapping, or his field length exceeded the maximum characters that are required. Uh, so depending on what you select here, it will include that employee, or it will omit that employee and deliver the remaining employees, or it will abort the entire process. Uh, it will not deliver the file. It's doing omit report warning. So if you do omit report warning, that means your business has to take care of that employee and repush this employee manually to the external vendor, right? Because that employee is missing. Or if they are okay, they can run it in the next cycle. Include will include them, but still put your warning on your integration messages. Maximum field length validation. Yeah, similar to what we did for that validation, maximum field validation is also same. You can say like in your field attributes, you can select first name should be 50 characters maximum length, right? So in that case, 50 characters, if the first name exceeds 50 characters, you can omit that employee, you can include that employee, and you can abort the entire process. Let's include. The organization type, the name that identifies as an organization being payroll company. This attribute can be left blank, and the integration will automatically identify the payroll company by looking at the organization that the pay group is included in. The attribute is only needed if the pay group is included in multiple different organizations. So each pay group will have a external payroll company. So that basically describes if you are going out of the company, but I mean, inter-pay group changes, right? So I can change from one pay group to a different pay group. I can change from a monthly to a bi-weekly. But as long as I'm in the same company structure or same payroll company, uh, payroll interface thinks it is an internal transfer and it will not impact it. Or it will not create me as a termination. But if I'm going out of a company, for example, if I'm going from company Google to company ABC, sorry, Google to Alphabet. If Google is separate organization, if your payroll wants person moving from Google to Alphabet as a new employee to Alphabet, but has a termination to Google, because those two are separate entities, your pay group for Google will be different, will have a different payroll company, and your Alphabet will have a different payroll company. So two different payroll companies. When you're moving from one payroll company to other payroll company, it is considered you are terminated from Google and you are hired in Alphabet. But if they are both under the same payroll or payroll structure, both have the same payroll company, then you still, it's like an internal transfer. It's like a data change. It's not term and hire. Okay. Include prior values. This checkbox will include the prior values in the integration output. Audit document tag. Output documents. We can add a tag saying. I can create a tags. Basically, tags are used when delivering. If you want to deliver an audit file, it's better you create a tag and then you use that tag in your document delivery to deliver your audit document. How do I create this? Basically, like go here, I create document tag name, PICOF, deliverable. Okay, and I should see PICOF deliverable here. And I can use this PICOF deliverable in my document delivery step, so that it will only, that document delivery step will only deliver this PICOF. I mean this output file from this integration, not the audit files. If you want to deliver the audit files, you can do a different tag for that. Extract all for employees that are identified changes. Extract all configured data section fields with annotations on the modified field or records. Deleted data sections with an operation field is not extracted. The transaction of service cannot be used when extract all pay. So extract all pay data. If you enable this, if it detects one change for a worker, it will basically extract all information for that worker, irrespective of any different element changed or not. For example, if his address changed, it will also extract his pay data, compensation data, everything for that pay period, effective in that pay period. But if you don't want to do that, you only want to include only the changed only fields, you don't select this tag. Period look ahead date. So this field or this attribute is mainly used in cases of terminations and hires. So what it does is, let's say, it defines the number of whole days after the current pay period ended to detect pay changes that are affecting the next pay period. If a pay's current status matches one of the defined period look ahead pay status attribute, then the pay will be extracted in the current pay period along with the changes that are affected in the following pay period. So let's take an employee, a pay period end date is today. 2/21 is the pay period end date, and an employee is terminated on 2/22/2018. And you don't want to wait for that employee's termination until the next pay period one. You can, as per your payroll is concerned, send it today. So in that scenarios, right, you can use this thing, look ahead payroll period, look ahead days, and you can do 1 day ahead. So it will look for the pay period next day also to say whether to look for, okay, does anything change? Does the status change on 2/22? Yes. So bring data as of 2/22 in this period run itself. So that way your payroll systems know that this guy is getting terminated. You obviously will have the termination data as 2/22. So your payroll systems can actually know what is exact termination date is. Similar to days pay status. I mean, this is what I'm talking about. So this will basically look for the status of an employee ahead of within the from the next pay period also. So you right now you're getting into what we call data sections. So include earning and deduction section. These earnings and deduction sections will only include in the output file of if the PI earning and deduction section service is enabled. This attribute provides further control over when it will be included in the output. Currently, it is selected to include only when changed. I can override it and say include always. Always. So what this means is if anything changes for that worker in that pay period, I'll always include his earnings and deductions for that pay period. because I mean the integration will not be only run once per a pay period. It depends on your client, but the cases I have seen they run it every twice a week. So they basically feed the ADP or a different system twice a week, so that the data is in sync between your HM and your payroll. So you don't have to include earnings and deductions always, right? You can only include them only when changed. So that you can do that. Calculate benefits as of a paycheck date. When enabled, my earnings and deductions related benefits will be included with the value in effect on the payment date as opposed to pay period end date. So if there is a one-time payment or something which will take effect on a payment date, not on the payroll period date, you can not one-time payment. Yeah, this is more like a recurring day-to-day earnings. If I am earning carpool amount because I'm riding carpool every day, so these prorated amounts they are calculated as of the payment date, not as of the pay period end date. Because payment date is usually 2 days later than pay period end date. And then the next time the calculation starts from the pay period end date. National ID required enables validation that ensures at least one national ID is present in the output file identifies. I want at least one national ID present, SSN or something, so I can mark it. Include paid time off section. So these are all data sections. I'm gonna scroll through them. Time off reporting interval. But these data sections they only appear as because you selected them as services. You selected to include the time of service, time of integration service in there. Include pay data section, yes, and include only when changed. Include payment election sections, yes. Use preferred name when present. So there is also an option not to include legal name if that is a if the employee has a preferred name. Put the preferred name, not the legal name. What address type you want me to include? I may include home. What address usage? Maybe it's a mailing address I want to include for an employee, so I'll put mailing. Second address type. If an employee has a second address, then send a work address permit or a lockbox. Similar thing, second address usage, communication usage type for phone. It will give me an option to select whether it's a mobile, home, or work, and then similar to we have email address also. We can select between home or work. Include position data only include when changes. Return only return the primary position for each employee. Yeah. So what this basically is referring to is some employees will have secondary positions. Sometimes an international assignment, or for some period of time they might be sitting in a secondary position that they're holding for a terminated manager or someone who's terminated, and they have to take both positions for some time until we replace them, right? In that case, if you don't select this option to yes, it will PI will basically return both positions irrespective of what's the primary and what's the secondary. You'll get it in an order. If you uncheck this, it will only get you the primary position. Job classification groups, organization types for organization one. So there are like you have five organization types that you can send. If you want more, you have to do field overrides. But one organization is a company, the next one is cost center. You can do location, you can do product or your organization types. Compensation data section, include only one change. Elements data section, include only one change. Status data section, yeah, include only one change, tax status, W4. So these are all, it has almost every data element we require for running a payroll. You just have to understand your external vendor, payroll vendor, what he needs, and then you configure the PI accordingly. Primary payroll integration, this is important. So this flag determines if this is a primary payroll integration for your pay group. So what I meant by that is, let's go back to a pay group. Let's see, let's take a David, any David. I don't like this guy. Mark. Let's go to his pay. Okay, let's go to his organization. I need his pay group. Oh, I need more security. Okay, one second. There you go. So this is his pay group. And when you look at the pay group, you have an option of, you have an option to assign an integration as a payroll integration. So let me see. Pay group option. Oh, I need to have organization administrator. Okay, organization, edit organization. Then I can use it in pay group payroll interface. This should give me an option to assign an integration here. It's not doing that. This because these guys are using workday payroll. That's not working. Okay. Something is missing here, but I think these guys are using workday payroll. That's where there is no need of primary payroll integration. Uh, Otherwise, you see an option here called include an integration system. So where you can include this integration system within this payroll, within this pay group. So this both are linked. So when you run this integration, pay group will automatically have a field saying last extracted date on the pay group page, and then which identifies your last successful runtime basically. In a core connector, right? You have your last successful runtime. So that is what is populated in the pay group. So, and when you run the integration again, it will extract data from the last successful runtime from this pay group. So that's where you can modify. That's where you can link both pay group and make it a primary integration. So you always run that integration to extract data. So you will not change the last successful runtime ever. So it will always get the last successful runtime from the pay group, and then it will just only include changes from the last successful runtime. So you don't send duplicates. Okay, and make the primary integration uses the pay period status to determine the appropriate change detection method for payroll extract. The primary integration also uses pay period status when the extract completed without an error. A non-primary integration always uses all effective change detection method, but if it's a primary integration, it will get changes from the pay period last extract status when it is completed without errors. Processed as the last extract created date of the pay group. Yeah. And global payroll cloud certified integration. Enable this integration attribute to decrease the integration system is certified. Not sure what that is. Pay groups transfer staffing. Pay group transfer staffing event precedence. Okay. So PCI is pay company in. PCO is pay company out. PGI is pay group in. PCO is pay group out. So this is basically the other scenario that I have mentioned between intercompany transfers and within the same company moving from pay group 1 to pay group 2. So if they're within the same payroll company, if they're moving from pay group 1 to pay group 2, if you run the integration for the pay group 1, the employee will appear as PGO, pay group out. And then the new company, or in the new pay group, when you run the integration for the new pay group, it will come as PGI. When I say pay group, right, pay group is a launch parameter for this integration. You have to run this payroll interface for a pay group always. Or you can run it for multiple pay groups, but you have to pick a pay group in order to run the integration. PCO and PCI is if they are transferring from one company to a different company, they'll go as pay company out. It's like a soft termination. They're terminated from this country softly, so they're companying out and they're coming into a new company. Within the new pay group, they'll come as PCI, pay company in. Payroll country, so you can select this payroll country depending on that. It will change a little bit on its functionality. This is for reporting purposes only. This attribute does not impact the behavior and output produced by the payroll interface. Good. Country code controls the type of country code that will be in the output. So this should be our alpha 3 or alpha 2. Okay. Payroll vendor. You need a payroll vendor. So these are all the payroll vendors that Workday supports. So you have like mostly everyone. I mean, these are all global as well. You guys can take a look at it. Right now, I'm going to do ADP. Yeah. Those are all the attributes that we need to put in, mostly. Did I miss anything that's required for us? No. I missed one attribute somewhere. Giving me another. Required for launch, required for launch. Not this one. I don't want to make it a primary payroll integration, so I'm going to leave it like that. No. Now I got rid of my errors. Only 3 warning sequence generators, point sequence generators, 5 sequence generators. I'm not bothered about those things. Let's quickly try to run it. There might be errors. It might not run because we did not really configure it. We just look around the attributes. I'm going to show you guys the launch parameters. So this will have a launch parameter called pay group. You enter a pay group here for a country or whatever the pay group you want to run the integration for. Pay period selection option. You have an option to select the earliest open pay period or the use pay period for the current date. So use pay period for the current date. It looks for the current date 221 and what is the pay period for the current date. So let's go to our pay group. Let's see what the pay period is. This is our pay group, Australia. If I scroll down, okay. So it is one second, guys. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we have this. The thing that I'm saying before is right. The last extract created, it gives an integration system and it gives a created date and time. It's not there for the pay group, but it's there for this. That's why we show it that edit organization. Not here. Interesting. Yeah. This is where you will see your integration system and your last extract date here. I'm not sure. It's not giving me an action to do it. Maybe it's my security. I've tried everything. Okay, never mind. So let's scroll down. Let's see what period is currently open in this pay group. I'm going all the way down. Everything is not started. Okay. In this tenant for Australia, the pay period that's in progress is 9/1/2015 to 9/30/2015. So the next period to process is 9/1/2015 to 9/30/2015. So if I'm use the earliest open pay period, the integration will look okay. The integration will look changes as of 9/1/2015 to 9/30/2015. But if I use this one, use pay period for current date, it will go for the pay period that is on the current date. So 2/11/2018, 2/21/2018. So it will go and look for this pay period and give changes as of this pay period, even though that's on not started mode. I'm gonna use the list open pay period. Pay group members, I have an option to limit pay group members. I have an option to say only give me uh, these particular people, like we can run a code connector for a specified person, right? Specific person. Similar way we can run this PICOF also for specific people. And include only specified members, include or exclude the specified members. This last successful run, it always controls what data elements it should include. So if your data has been changed from the last successful run, which is effective as of the pay period end date, it will be included in the output. Okay. If your data has been changed from the last successful run, but it is effective in the future of the pay period, it will not include in the current pay period because it will go and look for the next pay period, which is determined by this change detection option. Include all changes in effective in the pay period. So whatever changes you had from the last successful run, which are effective in this pay period or which are effective prior to this pay period, but not in future, will be included in there. Automatically select the behavior based on the date of the last successful run, which will also do the same thing. Include only changes entered since the last successful run, which is almost the same thing. The only difference is it will not include all the changes that are effective in the pay period. So let's take if there is a change that is effective in the pay period, in this pay period, but it was entered, what's my last successful run? Entered in November 2017, right? If you select this option, because the change is effective in this pay period, it will include in the output. If you select this option, because the change is entered after the last success or before the last successful run, even though that is effective in this pay period, it will not include because it is only looking for only changes that are entered after the last successful run. I mean, how do you determine these two options is basically what you're expecting in the output. You might have sent that employee who has changes in November already, right? If you run it in November already, you might have sent them out. That's how you determine it. If you want them with this, I always recommend payroll to use this because it will include changes all effective within the pay period. You will not miss anything most probably in here. You can do a full extract page as of current entry date and time effective regardless of whether they are changed or not. So you probably will not have this functionality. You won't enable this service when doing a PI because your payroll vendors mostly request changes only. They won't expect a full extract. Only during maybe the first time load they'll expect. Otherwise, they'll expect only changes. And I click OK, and then it basically runs. It might error out. Yeah, it's automatically failed. My task submitted is not authorized. I need to have more security than what I had, so no mind. So that's a typical payroll interface. It's a, I mean, we call it a black box. Personal experience, it's a black box. We only understand by its experience. I mean, you have to run it and see, okay, this is what it's giving, so this is how it will function. You don't know how it will function beforehand itself. I mean, personally, I did not know, and I have not seen anyone that can explain me this is how it will work. They can only say it because they have seen this is how it works. Weird. Questions? And I think we'll stop here, guys. I'm not kind of feeling okay today.
No.
Tomorrow we'll cover document transformation.
Okay. Thank you. Take care.
If you have any questions, ask me. Otherwise, good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Krishna. Hope you get better.
Yep. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.